Hello. Welcome to the Interjections podcast, subtitled The Undiscovered Decade. It's a podcast where we look back in the 1990s, 30 years exactly to the month that we're talking about a specific movie. Right now, we're in February 1995, and we're going to talk about a movie that I had not seen. That was a kid's movie that would have been perfect for people our age, the four of us. But wait, I should have probably addressed the fact that there are only three of us this episode. We had always said when we started this podcast that if anything got in the way of the podcast, like we got a job or something that took us away from the time we were going to record, and it was completely unavoidable that we would be able to record within that month, that it's okay if one of us misses. I don't think all four of us at the same time would always miss, but it was unavoidable for at least February 95 that Jimmy couldn't make it for this podcast. So this happened before, like Cory couldn't come for that best of for 93. So it happens. But this may happen again in the future.
Get that bread, Jimmy. Get that bread.
Yeah. So Jimmy's making more money than we are off of this podcast today. So I think it's worth it for him.
I think he's still looking for sponsorships if anybody's interested.
He did not give his thoughts on this movie, but I imagine he would like this movie based on how I viewed it. But we should probably get into it. And if you recall, we usually go into this spinner wheel that has all of our names on it. You'll notice that Jimmy is still on here. And if it does land on Jimmy, I'm going to try to get his thoughts for a second, as well as give us the description, because that's the point of this spinner wheel. If not, we may just do it ourselves. So
you should just call him and be like, hey, give me a synopsis.
He's at work right now. So he started 38 minutes ago.
So
yeah, his call time was the exact time of our call for this podcast today. So as it were, let's see who. Oh, that's blinding. That did not go that fast last month. Ooh, good. It's not on him at all. It's like completely as far as possible from him.
Yeah. There we go.
So if you notice, I gave myself all shades of green because it's my favorite color.
Oh, you gave me purple.
I gave Jimmy a green too, but I'm purple too.
Well, that's red nice. And orange.
That's nice.
I'm lavender.
You know what I did? I have a little bit of synesthesia, and I gave you colors that I see you as. By the way, you're very hot.
He's viewing our aura. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just angry. I have anger issues. So
maybe. But yeah, and you're very cool, Cory. So
it's whatever.
I see blues and purples.
Man.
Yeah.
Cool, whatever.
Don't worry about it, man.
Yeah.
Jimmy's not here, it's fine.
The movie we're discussing this month is called Heavyweights. The basic plot of it is this kid, Gerry, is cornered by his parents when he comes home for the summer, and they direct him that he is definitively going to a fat camp. And he obviously doesn't want to go there. He doesn't think he has a problem. He's a little overweight. By today's standards, he's just fine. But obviously this is a place in the 90s where it could be mined for comedy. So he's sent off to a fat camp, but it's kind of a fun fat camp where they don't really try to lose weight at all. It's led by a couple of camp counselors that are under the tutelage of Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira's characters, who have been running this place for 3 decades. And they get to the camp, and Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira are bankrupt and have had to sell the camp to a startup entrepreneur named Tony Perkis, played by Ben Stiller, which is interesting given that it's their son. I don't know what went into the casting mindset there, because they never have scenes together, and Jerry and Ann disappear almost right away. Tony Perkis wants to whip them into shape. Yeah, exactly. Tony tries to whip all the kids right into shape. The camp counselors don't really have much of an interest in doing so. He's brought in his own crew, including this stuffy German guy who
Lars.
Yeah, Lars has a bunch of comedic moments, and he has a cameraman following him around to try and actually turn this fat camp into an infomercial for his techniques. And it's not going well. He's kind of an idiot, and shenanigans ensue across the camp. All Jerry wants to do is ride some go-karts, but that won't happen this summer. Eventually they get the best of him, which is what you would expect from this kind of madcap family comedy. It's very much in the vein of stuff like Rookie of the Year or a movie that's coming out in a couple of months, Man of the House. It reminded me a lot of that. And so I probably would have liked this a lot as a kid. I remember seeing the trailer and thinking I would definitely see this, and it just kind of slipped by. I don't know if my parents really ever thought about it, like taking me. My mom and I used to go every summer to see movies in that Edison theater for like $2 because they'd replay movies from the previous year. And I think just in 96 or even the summer of 95, they didn't play Heavyweights. And that's the only reason I didn't see it because that's when we would catch up on things that came out in, say, February.
Right.
Like I even missed Homeward Bound 2 when it first came out in 96. I saw it that summer. Anyway, I like I said, I liked it. Actually, even now, I feel like I would be nostalgic for this movie. It's kind of madcap and like irreverent. Tony Perkis is totally deluded, and weird shit happens, and they just roll with it. Like he's definitely in a movie that like we would have made in high school. Like we were. There's a style for our ninja attack movie where it's like not paying attention to what's happening right next to you.
Yeah.
And just letting it roll. And that's kind of the style that Ben Stiller's going with in this kind of comedy. Things to make sense for him to say what he's saying. I don't know. How did you guys feel about the movie in general?
I've already seen it several times growing
Okay.
up. So
Okay.
that nostalgic feeling that you were talking about, I have that for this movie.
All right, cool.
See, I have a different kind of nostalgia because it definitely, the way they filmed it, it felt like you were at summer camp. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Like a Camp Nowhere kind of movie.
Right.
Yeah,
But then they
yeah.
parody because, you know, it's a little bit, you know, there's a little bit of Lord of the Flies in there
Yeah.
at some point where
Mhm.
it's like as
cow.
off the rails as it gets. Once they're trying to take back the camp.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually
it's-
don't think they went far enough. They could have come up with even more gags.
Yeah. When they're like covered, like it's not, it's like the reverse of a food fight. It was like a food ritual sacrifice
Yeah.
shot in slow-mo.
Yeah, that
It
was
was like,
pretty-
it had a very like Heart of Darkness.
It was like an
feel to
orgy.
it. Right.
It was
It was weird.
it was an orgy, but because they're kids, it's just like food. Like this
Right,
was
it was-
their Caligula.
I was just like,
There-
it's a Disney movie. They got certain limitations. They
Yeah.
can't go too far.
They're just
there-
eating cheesecake, you know?
There are
Yeah.
definitely some you know,
Well, there was a hint.
things that today would have been like, you know, other than obviously the entire thing is built on fat jokes, but like
Yeah.
the, you know, certain parallels and certain character interactions
I've never
today-
interacted with
today
kids
mi-
until today, so I'm
today
looking
might
forward to
have-
that.
might have not gone over as well with the public.
Well, there's
Mhm.
there's
What
a
are you
hint at
thinking
one
of?
point.
Oh, well, I'm thinking of like all, you know,
The fact that he takes all the kids up
Pat's-
onto the mountain.
Pat's interactions with some of the kids nowadays might.
Oh, Pat's. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other main counselor that had
Like, he
been
was great.
there
He was,
with
you know,
the
he was-
older owners.
the
And he's played by Tom McGowan. He had
Used to
gone
go
there
there.
as he had gone there as a kid, and now he's just sort of stayed as a counselor, as has Paul Feig, who had actually his weight loss actually worked. Tom McGowan's still
Yeah.
heavy set.
And so they make fun
Um,
of him because he lost the weight.
Right. So
that's why, you know,
it's like an
it's
uplifting
an empowerment thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I like that
Kind of
because
body
they
positive.
they definitely set the mood. They're not like making fun of any of these kids ever. They make fat jokes, but they're kind of sensitive fat jokes, which is
I was gonna say, I
And the
think
kids
weird.
the kids are in on
pretty
the
wholesome.
joke.
that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. The kids are in on the joke. It is kind of like body positive.
You think it could still work today?
I think it still worked today. I don't think it does anything too. It doesn't push the boundaries too far.
The one thing I think is, and this isn't like Ben Stiller puts himself in this situation.
Yeah.
He goes up on the mountain and they tell him, "Oh, can you do a sit up without seeing or hearing?" And they put a blindfold on him, and one of the kids pulls down his pants to show him his butt. And I thought he was gonna fart on him, but he's just showing him his butt. And in today's environment, it's kind of uncomfortable, but like I
Kids are
get the
gonna be
joke.
kids. Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's
Especially
just
when he pushes the kid. I'm
he, like-
pretty sure
he,
he
like-
pushes bare ass.
he hits his ankles and knocks the ankles out from under him, but which way he could fall, who knows? There's a weird
Well, fair.
moment
Fair.
in an otherwise fine scene.
There's another hint that the one character, Josh, and it's kind of funny, either gets abducted or killed. The fade away to his
Like
still
he
frame it,
died.
and then they fade to
Yeah.
the next frame, and you're like, oh my god, they killed that kid.
Yeah. And he comes back and he's pretending that he's been like
You're gonna-
lobotomized.
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah.
monkey over the cuckoo's nest.
Yeah, that was funny.
You're gonna lose the weight no matter what, kid.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was watching this, and as Ben Stiller's character got more and more unhinged, I was just like, this feels like it would have been the beginning of his character in Dodgeball. Like
That's
Dodgeball
what
is a
I always
spiritual
thought.
successor.
Funny thing you should bring that up. I have
Yeah.
a quote here from there was an article that he recently, Ben Stiller had an interview with this guy, David Marchese of the New York Times, about Severance and his entire career. Marchese brought up the fact that he had rewatched Heavyweights recently because it's like 30 years ago. And he's like, it reminded me so much of your character in Dodgeball. And Ben Stiller's like, I really hope no one would notice because by the time I made Dodgeball, it had been about a decade. And I didn't think anyone would notice. I was just kind of doing the character again.
That's cool.
I think you
yeah.
should lean into it and be like, no, Dodgeball
Yeah.
is a sequel to
yeah. He
Heavyweights.
says
Well, the funny part is at the end of Dodgeball, what happens?
he
gets
becomes fat. Yeah. He's kind of like that character where he's obsessed with the fact that he wasn't good enough as a child. So he went into this like program, right, in Dodgeball. So it's kind of like him 10 years later. Tony
It's
Perkis.
funny because
Well,
the common wisdom is that muscular people are not funny or sinewy people are not funny, because I remember during like the second regime of SNL, everybody was like, or Joe Piscopo he's obviously a little too built to be a comedian. So the fact that throughout his career, Ben Stiller has made it a fact of showing off how in shape he is.
Yeah.
Like even
His
back.
abs.
Oh yeah.
Damn, dude.
It's supposed to be a joke in Meet the Parents when he comes out in the speedo and you're like, what's the joke? This guy's in great shape.
right. I think that's the point. Like no one expects Ben Stiller to actually have muscles.
Right.
Heavyweights just it split into one part Dodgeball, one part Tropic Thunder. Like if you follow the through lines.
Yeah. And I think they're all successful. Like Ben Stiller might have a type, but his type is funny. So
Yeah.
I think I was going through his career and I realized I'm actually kind of a big fan of Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
I like everything he's done that I've seen.
He also plays dual roles in this. Did we say that?
Yeah, I thought he'd have a bigger part as the other character. He plays his own father, the lighting king of the Western Pennsylvania.
You know what? He sounds like the character that he does in Starsky and Hutch, the do it guy.
Yeah.
As the father.
Right. That was a good character though. He was funny. I wanted more of that guy too.
You're right. I did want more of him.
That is a hallmark of good comedy though. You leave him wanting more.
Seeing Kenan Thompson, pre-Kenan Thompson, was also fun. He's the biggest thing. Like he's longest reigning cast member on SNL
by several years.
Yeah.
Was it Tim Meadows after him? Or?
Who's the guy that used to do Clinton?
Darrell Hammond.
Darrell Hammond was the longest. They were tied like 5 years ago. So I think he has 5 years on Hammond now.
He's the announcer now, right?
Right. I think he just didn't want to leave New York. And if you're gonna keep paying me, I'm gonna keep the job.
Right.
Kenan meant to. He's obviously tried to he had his own sitcom that I watched and liked fine. It wasn't very successful because everyone just sees him as the SNL guy now. Or even all that.
Yeah, all that Kenan and
So,
Kel.
yeah.
I know that they did the Good Burger sequel a couple
right, but that's kind of like every legacy sequel. It's almost obligatory now.
Hey, weirdly enough, Ben Stiller would work with Kel years later in Mystery Men.
That's right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Worked with both of them.
I was gonna say how crazy it is that he's working with Kenan, but he did both. With Kenan too, I don't know if you realize that Josh and at least one or two of the other kids are also in the Mighty Ducks.
Yes.
So this is kind of just a fourth Mighty Ducks. It's like if all the Mighty Ducks got too fat and had to go to fat camp. And it is appropriate because Stephen Brill was the director of did he do all the Mighty Ducks? I forget. I wrote it down, but I think he did.
I don't think he did the third.
He at least started it. So he did the first two and then this. So this is kind of the third Mighty Ducks, but
like Sean Weiss, who I think played Josh, he wasn't gonna do this movie, but he only did it because otherwise he wouldn't be able to do D3, I guess, like in his contract or whatever.
Interesting.
Like,
so Stephen Brill's only written them, he hasn't directed them.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
He wrote all.
Right. This was his directorial debut. I knew there was something specific that I was surprised about for him. I thought he had directed them all.
Then he aligned himself with Sandler.
Right. Yeah, he did a bunch of those. The last thing he did was Hubie Halloween. He did the Do-Over. He did some good one. I like Little Nicky. I am forgiving of that. I like this. Okay. And I like Little Nicky.
Don't put those in the same bowl.
Little Nicky was a guilty pleasure when it came out. I didn't know Sandler that well, so I didn't have good compared to, but I
like-
still think it's funny.
I like Little Nicky. Little Nicky was like one of the first. When did that come out? That was like 90.
2000.
2000.
Yeah, so that was like my first like PG-13 movie.
Ah,
that I
yeah.
saw
See,
in the theater. Like,
All right.
I saw it right after seeing Happy Gilmore or right before, and so I kind of am fine with it. I know there were other ones. I only saw Big Daddy last year. I had never seen it. So I didn't have this run of great Sandler films and then a clunker. So in my mind, it's in the good run. There have to be, everything can have a fan, you know?
Is he involved in Fanboys?
Have you heard of the movie Fanboys, Jeff? I know you know about it, Cory.
Yes, was that about the Star Wars people that invade Skywalker Ranch or something?
Yeah, so it was
Yeah, cut
meant
that.
to be about these guys who one of their friends has cancer, so they don't think he's going to make it to the premiere of the original Star Wars film. So they drive out to Skywalker Ranch in California and try to convince Lucas to show them the movie ahead of its premiere. Which I don't think anyone knew Star Wars was coming when it was coming out, so I don't understand the like interesting premise. And anyway, this movie went through development hell for a couple of years. It was supposed to come out in 07, and I think it finally came to theaters in 2010. It was just kind of like railroaded a little bit by Weinstein, because that was the company that was producing it.
Right.
Dan Fogler's one of the stars. He's one of the guys, one of the friends that's trying to get them there. And Kristen Bell's in it. They kind of railroaded the director as they thought that the movie wasn't working. And they bring Stephen Brill in to kind of fix it, tweak it a little bit, do some reshoots that might help it have some verve. And maybe this is along the lines of what he was doing in his career, like this kind of film, but he ended up getting caught in an email conversation. He called the fans losers, and he said that he called a fan dumb and threatened to hunt him down in a profanity-laden emailed response to a letter of complaint about the movie taking so long.
Wow.
Yeah, so his career kind of like never went anywhere after that, and he's only stuck with the Sandler movies and not the good ones, not like Little Nicky.
He not he into Waterboy. You're right.
No, he's not the best director. This might be his best movie.
Probably right.
He did do an infamous movie. He's one of the 12 directors that worked on movie 43.
Ugh.
Have you ever heard of this, Jeff?
Oh, I've heard of it.
Okay.
I've always been afraid to watch it because it
I
feels like
know.
one of those, like a cursed videotape from the ring. Like,
I know.
if you watch it, your career's doomed.
Yeah, we got to do it. We got to watch it someday.
Yeah.
I will say, despite wanting more of this, more of the gags in this, he does actually know what he's doing for this. I think if he'd worked with kids more, like the Mighty Ducks movies, or do something else along this line, he might have had a better career.
He's not an incompetent director at all. And also,
Don't write us, Stephen. I don't want an email from you.
right. And I think he's working from a solid script that he co-wrote with Judd Apatow.
Yeah, that is the significant part of this movie. Judd Apatow got his start here, at least in film. He'd been working
on he was working on the Larry Sanders Show at the time. So that's why probably Jeffrey Tambor's in it.
And do you know who the nurse is? Did you recognize her? I looked her up because I'm like, I know that face.
Yeah.
It's Jeffrey Tambor's wife. It's I don't know, Meg. Whoever Hank marries in that infamous wedding episode, that whirlwind wedding
remember.
towards the end of season 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She has this flirtation with the Tom McGowan character.
Yeah. Well, he ends up with her. He kisses her at the end. It says it's my girl without ever actually asking her out. I hope she knew that was coming.
The 90s.
See, it's life affirmative.
She not instigated, but like she held his hand and like made a show of it. So she was very much aware.
That's true.
Right.
But yay, the 90s.
Yeah.
With an awkward romantic subplot for the grown-ups.
Yeah. It was nice because it's not heavy-handed, that romance. It's not forced upon us or anything. And even Paul Feig is like trying to like help him out, and none of them are like uncomfortable with anything.
Yeah. But like she sees him helping out the kids and like actually like, oh, he's actually really, he's not just the weird bus driver. Like he's
and they don't make a point of her like liking a heavier guy or anything. They don't point that out. Like Paul Feig would be the more attractive one because he's thinner. They don't do any of those easy jokes. Like he doesn't think she would like Paul Feig instead of him,
Yeah, no, they never set it up that way. They just set it up like he's just weird and awkward, and then
she thinks that's
gets over
endearing.
himself. Yeah.
It's nice. It's normal.
Another quick side note, speaking of the bus, apparently on the side of the bus, like it's a detail that I didn't notice until I was looking at the trivia. It says max capacity 25, but they scrawled out 25 and wrote 23.
Yeah. There's little jokes like that in
Yeah,
each
multiple
spot. It's good.
visual gags.
Yeah. I also have Star Wars in my head, but the race at the end with the go-karts, which Gerry gets to drive,
Pod racing.
it looks
Uh-huh.
like the move that Anakin makes over Sebulba at the end of that race.
I'm sure
Episode
that
one.
George Lucas had some sort of inspiration from this movie.
Oh, this is smart. I should put this in a Star Wars movie.
That Disney
Ha-
film with the heavy kids. We should
40% of episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is just heavyweights in space.
Yeah.
I heard they cut out the line, "This is go-kart racing."
And you would think that Ben Stiller would be like the Darth Maul type, but no, Ben Stiller's just the Zebo or whatever, whoever owns Anakin at the beginning of the movie.
Watto?
No, Watto, that's the one.
Watto, though.
Oh wait, ooh. That's a little anti-Semitic.
Yeah, jeez.
Boy,
Jeez,
yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah.
What?
Ben Stiller's Jewish, man.
Yeah,
I'm not-
come on now.
It's been behavior-wise. Jesus, don't get me canceled. He's playing a character.
Yeah. Did you see the fun fact about Judd Apatow in the trivia?
Oh yes. So speaking of when he first started dating Leslie Mann, he showed her this movie on their first date to try to impress her.
I
I'm
can
guessing it worked.
I can
I would
honestly, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have This Is 40 without Heavyweights,
I would be
Yeah.
impressed.
right? Or Iris.
Yeah.
But I can just see Leslie Mann sitting there like he's brought her home to watch Heavyweights, and she's like, "Did you think something was gonna happen tonight?" Like I can just see her like
It's funny
It's
because
like,
then
stuck around.
a year later he would produce The Cable Guy, and the whole time she'd be making out with Matthew Broderick. And he's like, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah,
Watch Ferris Bueller make out with your wife. That's fine.
yeah, whatever you're into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all the trivia I had. Who was your favorite camp kid? I definitely like Josh. He was very funny. He had good comedic timing. I like Salami Sam.
I like the kid. Sorry, I don't know his name. The kid with the glasses and the spiked hair,
Oh, he was great. Yeah, that kid was funny every time.
Yeah.
especially at the dance.
Yeah, there were a lot of good bits.
He's voguing.
Yeah, and he has the beret and the Les Mis because he thinks
Yes.
that's what's going to impress girls,
Yeah.
and it works. The one
It
girl, she
works.
like silently like
Again,
he's a theater kid.
they set it up where they could make a cheap fat joke where the girls are disgusted by them.
But they're
then
more disgusted because they're not approaching them.
right.
Yeah.
And then eventually, right as they're starting to start to assimilate, they pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all
It was a
forming
good
little-
scene.
I like the weird British kid.
Oh yeah, the British kid was funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually my favorite line when Ben Stiller is all tied up and he's in a cage that they've electrified so he won't get out. They leave the British kid to guard him, and Ben Stiller gets a meal, and he has a little Hershey kiss. And he like he's de-electrified the fence with a fork, and he holds out the candy for the British kid. He's like, "Would you like a Hershey kiss?" And the kid's like, "Throw it over." But it would smush. And that is that's my favorite delivery. I think of that all the time. So good. I also like Ben Stiller's line, lunch has been canceled today due to lack of hustle. Deal with it. I feel like I would have quoted that all the time.
That sounds
I don't remember quotes.
It's almost like the MASH announcements.
right. Yeah.
that sounds like that would have happened like on set.
Right.
It's just been canceled today due to lack of hustle.
Yeah.
I think my favorite Ben Stiller delivery is when they're filming the infomercial and he's weighing all the kids, and by the third one he jumps on and he sees the ones that gain a bunch of weight. He's like, all right, get off.
Yeah. We should talk about Alan Covert too. That's the key of the movie. That's how
Oh,
they
yeah.
get him. I was surprised
Grandma.
how funny he was. The moral of this movie, by the way, is never fuck with a camera guy because they need to get paid.
Uh-huh.
Right, Jeff?
Oh yeah, we got
Yeah,
all the outtakes.
Alan Covert is I think he's an underrated actor. I know he's just kind of one of Sandler's buddies, but I like him in Grandma's Boy, and he's funny here. I think he could have had a bigger career if people liked Grandma's Boy.
Well,
Yeah.
Nick Swarsden factor.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But
Although when I first saw him, I thought that it was Matt Stone.
he looks like him, yeah.
He does look like Matt Stone.
Yeah, especially in the
No.
90s.
Right.
That's another great scene when they re-edit all the footage with B-roll. And
Yeah.
they're showing it to the parents at the end, and Josh pretends to eat a rat.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do we want to give our grades as? We're going B plus. I also think I don't know who the casting director was, but they must have had these kids like together before they started filming because they got great chemistry between all the kids.
Oh, the
The
Mighty,
Mighty
Ducks.
Ducks.
Right. That's
So,
true.
yeah, they all already know each other. This is like the kids go to camp together.
And this is a
Yeah.
great start to that megalomaniacal Ben Stiller character that we didn't get enough of. Because after he started playing kind of laughing stock, milksop characters. But I like when Ben Stiller's a little plays the arrogant, overinflated, hubristic blowhard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's most of his career.
Yeah.
Like with good intent. Like he figured it out, and it's good. He's also an incredible director too.
Ben
Absolutely.
Stiller, yeah. I mean, Severance.
Yeah.
Underrated.
Escape from Dannemora. Did he direct Cable Guy?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
That's right. Is that his? No, he directed Reality Bites first, right?
Reality Bites.
Yeah, Reality Bites is great.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty's real good too.
That's maybe my favorite, but
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with a B+ as well.
yeah. I actually might go with an A- only because I was thinking like there could be more gags here and they kind of wrap things up so quickly. I don't want a 2-hour movie. Like an hour and a half was kind of, well, it was an hour 40. It's kind of perfectly paced.
Did
but
you guys watch until the end of the credits?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw what happened to Tony.
Yeah.
I did not realize they had a post credits.
I just think they could have expanded on a lot of the bits. And I was just thinking of all the shenanigans they get into in Man of the House, and they could have done more. And that's the only reason I'd bring it down to A-.
Oh.
So still better than both of you. We're having a good 95, honestly. So
Yeah.
far. Let's hope next month is good. Yeah.
There's other movies that were released this month.
Yeah, what were they?
It's kind of a side note. It'd be my number 6, but I just felt like I had to bring it up because it's such a gimmick of a movie. It's called Mr. Payback. I don't know how many people remember this, but Bob Gale, the co-writer of Back to the Future, decided that, you know what's missing? The option of choice when you're watching a movie. A choose your own adventure type thing where people interact with the movie and make choices on what the character is going to do. So the framework of the story is about this cyborg Avenger who will, like, if there's a minor infraction in society, he'll come and correct it. But the gimmick is in every theater, they installed a toggle switch where you could pick wherever direction you wanted the movie to go, whatever revenge you wanted him to take, and it would send a signal up to the booth, and a laser disc would choose which side that goes on, and based on the votes.
So yeah, that's right, Jeff. A choose your own adventure movie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
They did
And
it.
I have watched.
They did it in
But
95.
They don't
This
have
is it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
Well, no,
don't have the full movie online. It's completely scrubbed from existence. But I found clips of it because obviously it's variations, and if you just willed it down to just watching it straightforward, it's 20 minutes.
Okay.
But it is awful.
Okay. And
And
that's why we
now
don't
you
have
know
any
why
others.
Bob Gale had no career outside of working with Zemeckis.
Well, it's interesting because I'm like, did it fail because the thing was not because the script wasn't good, or did it fail because they focused too much on making the technology work? Because if the technology worked and that was
Probably
proof
both.
of concept,
Probably both.
I think it was both because it didn't obviously it wasn't wide release because not everybody wanted to install that in their theater because the technology was
Right.
and also I'm sure it wasn't streamlined. I'm sure there was a lot of malfunctioning and gaffes associated with some new technology like that.
And I think there's a fine line between that and what was the Choose Your Own Adventure on Netflix that came out.
Oh,
There might have been a time in the early 2000s or late 2000s where that might have worked in theaters, but it just didn't hit at the right time. It was outside of the time that this would have worked.
Sure.
I remember hearing about this a couple of years ago, not with the Netflix, like before the Netflix thing, there was some theater in Japan or some European country where it was a similar thing, but it was like actually in a theater. But rather than like a toggle switch that was installed in a proprietary thing, you just texted a number. So they actually encouraged to have your phone on during the movie,
Right.
which is, its own set of problems.
I think that's
But
a
it
good
was the
idea.
same concept, and because everything was more streamlined and like, because 95 they were going between film and laserdisc and whatever, but in early 2000s they had more of a streamlined digital situation, so it would have worked a lot faster, probably worked a lot better. But who's to say, like, if the movie sucks, it's not gonna save it.
Yeah, it's like a year too early because DVDs are literally about to take off by the end of 95. I also think there's currently this show on Broadway, or at least in New York, and probably around the country touring, that's basically a D&D live where you can roll dice at your seat, and based on the dice roll, they'll do different things. And that's
Yeah.
an improv sort of thing. I think
Oh.
that's where it works best, a choose your own adventure. Because if we filmed all these scenarios right off the bat, it's kind of like Clue, where you get a different ending,
Yeah.
but there's only so many endings you can film. You can't film like 6 hours of things just in case, right? Like some of those may never be seen.
Right.
I think it's possible, but I don't know that people have the capacity or the brain, the attention span to want to do a choose your own adventure movie anymore.
There are actually a lot now that I'm looking at it, like interactive
Yeah,
movies, like including a Playmobil movie in
What?
2009. Some of these they're actually referring to like they're more narrative video games, so like the Batman Telltale series and things like that,
Right.
where it's literally
Jurassic
just
Park one
like
did that.
it's technically, if you watch it narratively, yeah, it's a choose your own adventure, but it's not like you're watching a live action. This was all filmed beforehand.
Some of the DC animated movies have been doing that.
I think an animated movie would be a good way to do that.
The other thing is like you have, let's say, on a good day, opening day of this movie, you have 200 people in a theater, right? Getting 200 people to agree on something, there's going to be people that are not into what ends up getting chosen, and
Well-
they're going to be like, they're going to hold that against the movie. And
I bet the point of Mr. Payback was that it's a majority vote. So if you
Right.
didn't get what you thought was about to happen,
You come see it again and vote differently.
I guess
Yeah.
that's all you have to deal with. And it's a certain type of brain that wants to see this anyway. So if you're going to see this movie thinking you're going to get what you want,
yeah, it's a cool concept. It would destroy my brain though. Like
yeah, I know.
I hated choose your own adventure books when I was a kid.
Really, I
Because,
thought
like,
you'd
they're
love
too-
this.
No, like I like the idea as a concept, and
Yeah.
like, but that's why I didn't get too much into D&D back then. I'm like, it's too open ended. I need a through line. I need a focus. I need this to finish in 2 hours. Otherwise, like I have trouble keeping track of
Your
different
attention
storylines.
span.
Because well, it's not even an attention span thing. It's that I'm a completionist about the whole thing, and I'm like, if I'm reading a choose your own adventure book, I have to then go back and try to get every plausible combination, and then I'm like,
Oh.
I'm reading the same book for 6 years, and I don't want to do that.
Oh, I did
So,
that too. It only took like an hour.
Yeah, well,
I'd
you also
keep bookmarks in places and then I'd go back. Well, you're
Right.
yeah, you have
Well,
you don't have the memory.
you have some fucking thing in your head where you have like a virtual bookmark on everything. You watch movies and will like
Come back
place a
10 years
bookmark in the
later.
movie and come back to it like
Yeah,
weeks or months later. And
years
like
I've done
yeah, or
before.
right.
Yeah.
I can't do that. If I haven't seen it for longer than 3 days, I have to rewatch it again. I have no
I'll-
idea what's going
I'll
on.
tell you about my attention span specifically for this. There was a Super Bowl, in fact, that I brought a choose your own adventure book to. I read the entire thing with all different scenarios during that Super Bowl,
Right.
while also having food and chatting with people.
Yeah.
You know, it was a party I was at. It was obviously I was one of the few kids, so I brought the book to entertain myself when the game got boring, and it didn't get
Yeah.
boring. It was one of the better ones.
You're insane. Like even the Black Mirror episode, like everyone's raving about this and I want to watch it, but I'm like, I have so much pent up anxiety about going through this because I'm like, I'm gonna need to take a weekend.
We
to
should do it
watch this
together.
one
I
movie.
can help you.
Hold my hand through this.
Yeah, so
That's
the
what it's
common
about.
common consensus for why the movie failed was the availability and the expense of the technology,
Yeah.
the lowbrow script, and the fact that, kind of like what Jeff just said, people want a linear story that's written for them. They don't want to have to write the story themselves.
Yeah, you're right about people trying to agree on something. I do actually think, now that I've thought about it a little bit, people wouldn't like if they didn't get their choice.
Really
Yeah,
good.
did you say that they got, like, did people ask for refunds because they didn't get the movie they liked?
Not enough people want to go see it in the first
Yeah.
place. I don't think it even cracked 1 million at the box office. Got a very limited release. So the official 5 movies I was going to talk about.
Oh, let's do this now.
Yeah. Shallow Grave, which I think
Mm.
is Danny Boyle's, is his debut? I believe
This is
it.
Danny Boyle's debut. I am surprised that this is so low.
Yeah, so I tried rewatching this. I'd forgotten it's more of a dark comedy than it is a suspense thriller, and
Yeah.
it's actually a rather callous one at that. I
Ooh.
don't like any of the characters.
Oh,
I'm not a fan of any of the characters in the movie, and usually Ewan McGregor is so eternally affable that for me to be turned off to him takes a lot.
interesting. This is also sort of his debut. He had a very small part in Being Human. He's in one of the segments. And,
Oh, I
and then
see.
he's in this. He really, this is basically Ewan McGregor's debut too. And one of the Doctor Who's Christopher Eccleston is the other guy in this.
Right, and I forget who the main girl is because she didn't do much after this.
Yeah, I don't know her at all.
Um,
But I wanted to see it. I own it. I tried to get Jimmy to watch it.
Number 4 is Just Cause, which I had always gotten this mixed up with the one we talked about the previous.
Higher Learning.
Well, no, Rising Sun.
Rising Sun. Oh, for Sean
I don't
Connery.
one of them until I watched them for the podcast because they're both Sean Connery like suspense thrillers. I think I like this one better though.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's a guilty pleasure though because towards the end it gets completely implausible, but up until then, it's a very engrossing thriller. He plays this professor who's against the death penalty, and he gets brought in on a case about somebody who's on death row that he believes might be innocent. So he tries to exonerate him, and he comes into friction with the local police, which is played by Lawrence Fishburne.
Well, yeah, Just Cause.
But yeah, I ended up actually, this is the first time I'd seen it. I ended up really enjoying it. Speaking of which, number 3 kind of gave a lot of actors their start in things, which is The Quick and the Dead, which is a Sam Raimi neo-western that has a huge cast of people. Some of the people weren't that well known back then. Like DiCaprio had done some movies as kids.
Well, What's Eating Gilbert Grape had come out, so
Yeah.
he's getting to be a star. But this is
But
one of
this
the
is,
movies that put everyone off of him for a second.
Right. So I think this kind of introduced American audiences to Russell Crowe.
Yes.
The villain's played by Gene Hackman.
Right.
Weirdly enough, the person that got most of the newcomers their roles, which is Sharon Stone, who's the lead of the movie, she's the weakest part of the film.
You think so?
I believe so.
Jimmy and I watched this a couple of years ago because neither of us had seen it, and we all really liked everybody in it. I think because she's the straight woman, everyone's so manic around her that you are kind of disappointed by her performance. I
Maybe I just don't like her in general.
I think it works here because I usually don't like her, and I liked her in this because she's playing off of people so nuts that she comes off as kind of good. And that's what you want out of this movie. So I think it works here, her type.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. I don't usually like her. And so I think it's just you don't like her either.
Yeah, I know. It does have a lot of that Sam Raimi like hyperbolic style too because the movie's like almost, and I usually don't like these tournament movies. It's about like showdowns and shootouts.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of scenes where the camera's like zooming in, craning out.
With a bullet.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah,
it's actually one of my favorite Sam Raimi movies.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I thought it would be your number 1, but I guess if you're not like into every aspect of it, you might not love it.
Right.
As much as these
I
next two.
I like Darkman, but
sure.
Like I said, Sharon Stone factor weighs it down for me. If they had a better lead, like if it was a Diane Lane, I think I would have liked it better.
Oh yeah, you love Diane Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they had more Russell Crowe. Well, no, he's in it enough.
He's in it good.
Yeah. He doesn't say much is what it is.
Yeah, he's laconic. Number 2, actually, speaking of a frequent collaborator with the people we talked about earlier, Billy Madison.
There you go.
Yeah, one of the best early Sandler movies in my opinion. And it might be his first big starring role.
Yeah, because Airheads came out last year?
Yeah.
And that's still kind of supporting.
Yeah. I think I like it the most out of the early Sandler movies because it has the most off-kilter non sequiturs that just you can't even analyze why they're funny, yet they are. And it has a great supporting cast. Norm Macdonald's in there. Yes, his first coming back with Steve Buscemi after Airheads.
Yeah. Bradley Whitford's the villain with a striking red hair.
Yeah, and Sandler's surprisingly charming in the lead role.
Chris Farley's funny.
Everything Farley does in the movie is hilarious.
Yeah. Who's the woman? Is that Christine Taylor?
No,
I forget.
Bridget Wilson.
Oh, right. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time.
Bridget. Is it Sampras Wilson?
She might have been Sampras at that time. I don't remember when they got married.
I think it was before she eventually got married to Pete Sampras.
Yeah.
I really like this Sandler movie. I keep going back to this one out of his earlier ones.
It's definitely one of my favorites.
Like I think this was not as financially successful as like Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore takes off, but
and then the big one was Waterboy.
Yeah, people cite it goes Billy Madison. It goes in order, like what really catapults him.
Right.
And by Little Nicky, he's on top of the world.
And that movie tanked.
That one kind of felt like Adam Sandler's Dogma.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's a little misunderstood.
Yeah. Adam Sandler's Dogma.
I'm just saying.
You know, I've never seen Waterboy.
I hate it. So that was my turning point with Adam Sandler.
Oh, wow.
I had really liked all of his movies, and then me and my friend Danny went to go see it in a packed theater, and we were sitting there. Everybody else was laughing. We were like, did we just outgrow Adam Sandler? I feel like we're mature now.
Oh, God.
Happened.
Yeah, I'm dreading it because everyone kept quoting it the weekend it came out, and I'm like, this doesn't sound funny.
It's not.
And I'd seen, actually, I don't think I'd seen anything at that point. I saw all of the ones that I like after that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've become a Sandler fan. So.
His dramatic work's great.
Yeah. But even his goofy, pointless vacation movies are kind of fun.
Oh, the movie where he gets the studio to fund his vacations?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Jennifer Aniston looks like she's having fun.
Pisses me off.
I kind of just want to be his friend so I can go on vacation with him.
Hey, he's loyal.
Yeah.
He's
He
still
seems
sticking
like
to
a
his-
nice guy in person.
He still puts Rob Schneider and stuff, so
Yeah, I know. I don't know why.
my number one might surprise you.
It is. I thought it would be Quick and the Dead.
I know. It's actually Boys on the Side.
Wow.
Herbert Ross directed. So it's a really good movie about three women that are spurned by men and go on a road trip. It's Whoopi Goldberg, Drew Barrymore, and Mary Louise Parker. They're all great together. You wouldn't think that seems like such an eclectic cast that they wouldn't have chemistry together, but they do.
Is this Mary Louise Parker's first thing? I don't know where she started.
I don't know if it was her first thing. She may have even got nominated for this.
Maybe for an Indie Spirit Award.
She's great in the movie. I won't give anything away about her character, but there's a revelation that happens that plays out organically instead of as a tearjerker.
Mm.
I guess I'm kind of giving it away that there might be a terminal illness in it, but
That's in the log line. I read it already.
okay.
But
All right.
knowing these were coming up, I tried to get Rebecca to watch this week, and she's like, "Hell no, not with that plot."
No, it's
She
not.
doesn't want to watch something so dramatic anymore. So
It's not as maudlin as you would think.
Yeah, she wants like comedies like Billy Madison these days.
I am.
She doesn't want to like the world's so depressing.
In the current
She doesn't want
environment-
another movie that's depressing.
I get it. It's not depressing though, the way it's played out, thankfully. I think this was like one of Drew Barrymore's first like adult roles after she was a child actor.
Mm.
And it's weird because nowadays, you look at Whoopi and you think of her from The View. I don't know if you necessarily think of her as an actress that much anymore.
Not anymore, even though she won an Oscar for Ghost 5 years
Right.
before this.
Sure.
Great film.
But yeah, it's almost like we take her for granted because she was a really good actress.
This is Mary Louise Parker's 10th film. She was in fact in Fried Green Tomatoes, which people compared this to.
I think I like this better.
I think that's like her breakout movie, Fried. I forgot about that. I've never seen any of these 10 movies.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah, the first thing I saw her in was West Wing. Actually, she becomes a love interest for Bradley Whitford.
But she's most well known for being next to Bruce Willis during one of the most awkward interviews he's ever done.
Yeah, I've never seen this.
That was the one where he's being really combative with that British host.
Graham Norton.
No, it was just for some radio show. He's like, "Let me explain something to you. We're selling the movie here. The fun part happened on the set. This is sales. What we're doing."
Oh my god.
Wow.
That brings us to our favorite part, which I feel like Jimmy would have appreciated this first one. Did I have them up already?
This is weird because this is usually we pick a bad movie, and both of these are good.
All right, you ready, Jeff?
Do it.
All right.
Okay, so it's a black background with a blurry looking open book with phantasms peeking out of it, shooting out of it, getting sucked into it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're
two
coming out
guys
or
are
going in.
screaming. Right, two guys screaming on what looks like a church. I feel like this would be the live action gritty remake of The Page Master. It's kind of what
I was hoping you were gonna say that.
the
I give you
vibe
points for that. Yeah.
the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah.
But obviously it's some sort of horror movie, kind of like it feels like a Stephen King thing, like a guy getting sucked into his own creation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking for what you think this is about, and you don't recognize this at all, right? I don't remember
No.
this from
I
'95.
feel like this is like a reverse Stranger Than Fiction, where like some guy starts writing this horror movie, and then he gets so into it that he literally gets sucked into it.
Does that sound
He's
right,
caught-
Corey?
He's caught in his own nightmare.
He's not far off actually.
So would you give him
being
points for that?
unpublished.
Oh, I would give.
Yeah. Give him a couple points. So what would you call this based on what I've given you?
Final chapter
The final chapter. Yeah.
or bookmark.
Ooh.
The Phantom Bookmark.
Yeah, kind of
Uh,
generic title bookmark would work in like 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open-ended. No. Choose your own adventure.
There you go. Mr. Payback.
Mr.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Read between the lines.
Ooh, there you go. You're doing
Hey,
your
between the
taglines.
lines. That was a
No.
movie.
I
Read
don't know.
between the
I'm just
lines.
they're all gonna be book puns.
Yeah, that's fine.
Discount rack.
Do you? I forget if I do the
Bargain
tagline or the name of the actor first, but can you tell who that is?
From the profile.
The middle one.
No.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Let's see if it's the tagline next. Do you want to give a
Generic
tagline?
screaming
You already
voice.
did read between the lines, which I think is good enough. But do you want to give a tagline for your movie bookmark?
You ever get too absorbed in a book?
Yeah, that's not bad, actually.
He needs to be part of the marketing department.
That's
I-
why we do this.
There
Oh,
we
it's
go.
know.
not. It's not clicking.
Please give me a job.
I was gonna say, is this just marketing for him?
Lived any good books lately? Okay, so it's actually pretty good.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
It's the actual.
And you can barely see the quote that popped up at the bottom. I think it's reality isn't what it used to be. You can kind of see that right over the credits at the bottom.
Yeah.
That wasn't there before.
I feel like this is like a live action premise of, you remember Gumby? Remember
Yeah.
how Gumby would just like go into random books and like
Sure.
that was and experience them, sort of like a Wishbone situation.
Yeah, I watched Wishbone, not Gumby.
Yeah, with Gumby.
I didn't know that's what Gumby's plot was.
It was, I mean, Gumby had a lot of weird plots. Gumby was written by people on a lot of acid in the 60s, but a significant portion of the cartoons were him just like skating into books on a bookshelf and then living out those books. Like he'd go into, a book about King Arthur and he'd be fighting with the Knights of the Round Table and some such thing. So I'm like, this is a live action horror version of that. Like some guy just like goes into books. I think he's, you know what? I think he owns a haunted bookshop.
That's not bad either. Yeah.
Like,
you're coming up with good plots, even if they're not this
like,
one.
This is like what Dan Aykroyd wanted his character in the new Ghostbusters movies to be. Like,
yeah, I get that.
I can tell you something.
From this angle, it looks like Vince Vaughn, but this is before Vince Vaughn's time.
Kristen alluded to him during our discussion.
I did. His name's also up now.
Yes.
Sam Neill.
There you go.
So based on horror movie with Sam Neill, do you know what this is?
Is it about vampires?
No.
It's not Daywalkers.
I don't know if you remember this movie happening. So Jimmy would know by now. That's why I had brought this up at the beginning, that Jimmy would have liked this one.
Yeah. It's got a Lovecraftian title.
The Mountains of Madness
Close enough.
In the Mouth of Madness.
There you go.
Isn't it based on a Lovecraft thing? I forget.
Kind of in a way. It's like John Carpenter's homage to Lovecraft and Stephen King.
Huh.
The author. Oh, you. The author in the movie is named Sutter Kane.
Oh, that's a
Stephen.
That's a Lovecraftian name if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Oh, man's best friend.
Yeah, do you remember this poster boy, Jeff? That's not photoshopped or stretched like the cat.
Was that like
that's
Ghost
just
Dog or something? Yeah.
This is the sequel to Man's Best Friend.
I believe it.
So yeah, is it a good movie, Cory?
It is a good movie. It's one of the last good Carpenter movies. It's basically Sam Neill plays like an actuarial. He has to go to the town that Sutter Kane's writing from because he's gone missing. And he goes to look for him, and he actually gets sucked into a Sutter Kane book. Things start to play out like the manuscript that he's reading.
Hell yeah, real into this. I would watch that movie or this movie with the dog and the cat.
Yes.
What's that house there? What is that?
Like
I don't know what that is.
It looks like.
Is that the cathedral that's in the movie?
Right. I was gonna say it looks like a church.
Yeah. Well, it's always so like what's the town that is Lovecraftian? It's like
Innismouth?
Yeah, it's something like that. And it's like the church is always an aspect because there's always crypts that they creep into, and there's always a dock because then some sort of Cthulhu can come out from the waters, stuff like that. Your Dunwich incident sort of stuff. Anyway, didn't know if that would be too hard based on how nothing was given to you. So I did have a second one that Cory and I wanted to give you.
Okay.
You impressed? That came out. That's AI.
Wow, you actually did a really good job.
Yeah.
All right. So white background. It's the globe of the earth that broken open like an egg. Presumably something's escaped.
I really wanted to know, would you recognize this without the main feature? Because this was a movie you might have seen or owned back then. So it would have been on the cover of the VHS.
I may have. I feel like I don't know. I just feel like it's got something to do with dinosaurs. But that's no.
Well, they are kind of dinosaurs by now.
Birds.
Relics.
But yeah, I wasn't sure you would get it just from the blank space. So I have it there just a little warped.
Okay. Yeah, no, I still wouldn't get it.
Oh, okay.
Now it looks like just some acid laced chocolate bar coming out of the egg.
Yeah,
like some sort of forbidden Kinder egg.
You can't see my cursor, right? I can. Direct. Oh, you can. So see around here, this is a little less blurred, so you know what this actually is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some sort of, I don't know. It looks like a roller coaster or something jamming into it, or a piece of plank of wood. Pirate ship. No.
How do you get on a pirate ship?
Further away. Gangplank.
It's
like pirates and space pirates. I don't know.
I'm leading you the wrong way.
We're going off course here.
Okay, so this is the main plot. Up above them will be a tagline, and at the bottom is where the title is. So based on what you see here, it stares with people on it is what I've blurred out, but They're coming out of the world, and what would you make of this movie? Not knowing what it is,
Stairway
because
to Heaven.
it's going to
a
be
comedy
something
about
nuts.
a comedy about the rapture.
Just based
Stairway-
on this poster,
Stairway
that
to
actually
Heaven.
kind of works.
Yeah.
Stairway to Heaven, a comedy about the afterlife. It's like Soul live action.
Right.
25 years before.
Coming home to roost. The Correct movie.
That is an IP, so that is kind of close to what this actually is.
Yeah.
Do you want to come up with a quote for your Stairway to Heaven movie before we move on? Because I'll give you more points for that. This is all bonus because In the Method of Madness was the main feature.
Quote for the Stairway to Heaven movie.
Yeah.
There's only one way out of this joint.
Okay.
And there's only one way out of this joint. The elevator's broken.
Ooh, nice. You saved it.
Yes.
Okay, so
Coming
this is this
1995.
is who they are. Now you should know what it
God.
is.
Oh yeah.
Yep. That's Shelley Long
But
and
why?
Gary Cole.
It's
And Ben
Brady-
Stiller's wife.
a very Brady
Oh,
movie
yeah.
or sequel.
First one.
It's
We
a
haven't
very
talked about
Brady
the
movie.
first
Haven't
one
gotten
yet,
the sequel
so we can't do the sequel without
Well, I
talking
don't know.
about the first one.
For all I know, the sequel could have come out in the '80s. We just haven't gotten to it, or the movie first one.
Yeah.
The sequel comes out first. This one.
That would be funny. Both good films, but anyway.
I like them both. Yeah.
This is I wish I remember the joke, but there's
Brady
something
Bunch
during the
movie.
dancing scene, maybe the funniest joke I've ever seen in a movie. But I gotta watch this again so I can try to remember what the joke was. But I definitely saw this in theaters. This might have been one of those movies that Mom and I saw in the summer later on. But yeah,
Is
so
this
now
the
that
one
you
that
know what
was-
it is,
Yeah.
what would you quote this as?
Everything's coming up, Brady. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just. They're back to Save America from the '90s.
Yeah.
See,
Sure.
I was just very confused by the egg Earth. Like that is the most
Right.
out of left field part of this.
Right. Like, I don't remember how this movie happens. It's basically Blast from the Past, but with the Brady Bunch, right? Because they're like out of touch with the 90s. It's
Yeah.
the whole premise is what if the Brady Bunch were modern, right?
Right.
And it's not really necessary to ask why.
Is it one
And
of
it's
those things
not
where,
like they transported from the 70s. It's like they
That's
never
what I
go.
assumed when I first heard about the premise. I was like, did they time travel?
Right.
did they just like come out of the screen? Like it's all some
Yeah.
fever dream of a 12-year-old that saw his mom's old tapes of the.
It's very weird, but it works so well that you just
Fantastic.
kind of ignore the actual premise. It's just we're getting more Brady Bunch with new actors and they're all funny. It's one of my favorite send-ups of a previous TV show, like how we did the Flintstones last year and how we did a bunch of others. This is my favorite one because I remember loving it so much. I haven't seen it in 30 years, so I don't know how it holds up, but
It holds up.
yeah, I kind of want to watch it again. I forgot to look up if that was on.
It's like
anything
when they were
left or
doing
something like that.
TV adaptations, this is like up there with the original Addams Family.
Yeah. Have you ever seen it, Jeff?
No.
Ah,
Oh. Well,
that's
now they look way
horrifying.
better.
What have you done?
At least one of them should have been the
Oh, I
cat.
don't want to see Gerry.
Alice should be the cat.
Yeah. I felt
Oh
like
my God.
when you move the women, it actually works fine. Because
Yeah.
except for Alice.
Not bad as far as like, when you think about the casting, like they look almost identical. Like it's really good casting for
Yeah. Who would have thought Shelley Long actually finally got a hit?
based that's entirely derivative from someone else's work.
I know. Ironically, another sitcom.
Was-
So we were thinking about for picks of the month, we might do Ben Stiller in the future. He did some indie movies for the rest of the 90s before he truly breaks out with Meet the Parents. But that meant we actually won't really get Judd Apatow until his breakout either. And so this is probably our best chance to talk about, even though his main career is in the 2000s, what's our favorite Judd Apatow film? Because we're all fans of his, right? At least one of his, probably.
Yeah.
So we'd all pick something.
Mine's a documentary.
Oh, yeah. I know what
Like-
you're picking.
I'm going with the Zen Diaries of Gary Shandling.
I knew you'd do that.
There's a toss up between that and the George Carlin one, but he's actually doing another documentary right now that sounds really good. It's a short one. I think it's about the relationship between Don Rickles and Bob Newhart.
Oh, that's nice.
They were friends in real life. I don't know how many people knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird
At the
because
same
you think
time.
they wouldn't like each other because they have complete opposite personalities.
That works sometimes.
Yeah. I gotta go with King of Staten Island.
Ooh, one
Alright.
of my birthday movies.
Wow.
I watched it for my birthday that year with Jimmy.
That was a COVID movie where they put it direct to
It was
Peacock.
on HBO.
Yeah.
Peacock didn't
It
exist
was
yet.
Max, maybe. You might be right.
Yeah, and it was still HBO at that point. I'm trying to think of what I would do. I remember having a good time at Knocked Up and thinking, "Oh God, we're adults now." But
I feel like Jimmy would pick 40-Year-Old Virgin.
you think so?
I feel like that. Unless he wanted to go with TV shows, he might pick like Freaks and Geeks or something.
Ooh, that's a good thing. Let me think about his. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't do The Critic, Jeff. He wrote a lot of The Critic.
Well then, I thought we were going based on like directing thing. Well, yeah,
That's fine, yeah.
The Critic, obviously, The Critic and Freaks and Geeks are two of my favorite.
So this is
shows.
the reason I bring up his writing stuff, because can I choose Pineapple Express?
Okay.
He wrote the story.
And he produced it.
Yeah. It's
He's a
kind of
prolific
like in the
producer.
vein. Because if not, I'd probably pick Knocked Up.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to go with Pineapple Express because that was a pivotal movie as I was graduating college.
Cool.
That was a good time.
Writer, yeah.
Who directed Pineapple Express?
David Gordon Green.
Oh, yeah. They were sort of friends for a little while.
Also,
That hack.
Funny
Yeah.
People was
It's the peak of Green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know he wrote the remake of Fun with Dick and Jane.
Yeah.
Didn't we see that together?
I don't know.
I think so. That
Huh.
was.
Maybe I saw it with you, Jeff.
Yeah, I think that might have been.
Yeah, I can see it. We were back for holiday break.
40-Year-Old.
I also really like Funny People.
That's a good one.
Do not.
Although I might be confusing it with Smart People.
Nah, you might be.
Yeah, you like smart people.
The Bubble might be his worst.
Yeah, The Bubble is bad. I watched that in The Bubble.
Yeah.
It's painful.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, he is a very prolific producer. Anywho, yeah, Judd Apatow has had a good career. Let's see if he comes back. He has something coming out. He has that short documentary you were talking about, but he's also doing.
The Lucas brothers.
Yeah,
He's always
He's-
got something.
he's doing a Stormy Daniels documentary.
Oh Lord. He's getting too political. I think that's the problem.
I don't know. He's getting older. He doesn't need to do anything because he made his money.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, next month, speaking of, you were talking about during our poster boy, how In the Mouth of Madness seems like a Stephen King-esque thing.
Right.
We're actually covering a Stephen King movie, an adaptation of one of his novels. I don't think we've ever done that. And it's more of his drama, like this is his drama era because Shawshank Redemption is so popular. We're doing Dolores Claiborne, which I know nothing about. So I won't even pretend to tell you a synopsis. I was talking to my dad about this the other day because we were doing it next, and he did not care about heavyweights. So I brought up Dolores Claiborne, and I'm like, "Is that the one with Julia Roberts and there's like a baby or something?" He's like, "That's Mary Riley."
Oh, the
So-
Jekyll Hyde movie.
Yeah. And he's like, "I've seen both. I really like Dolores Claiborne." He's like, "David Strathairn?" And I'm like, "Okay."
Yes. He's
And
right.
it's like that's what he thinks of when he thinks of David Strathairn. So I'm very excited to
Oh.
see him.
Okay.
This is our third Strathairn.
Nice.
Who's the woman in
Wild.
Dolores Claiborne?
Kathy Bates.
Okay, Kathy Bates. And isn't there a younger woman he brought up?
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Okay, that's who I was thinking of. So it's a decent cast.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens to all of them, but we will find out in a couple weeks. And then David Strathairn also in Sneakers.
And River Wild.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to Fat Camp with us. Notice I didn't wear like a fat suit like I did with the mask. That would have been that would have been an insensitive thing. Like,
Dude, sorry.
Yep. Anyway, see you next month. I'm going for a run. What does he say when he's running through the forest?
You damn alive.
Yeah, he doesn't say that to the whole time.
You're alive.
I was distracted by them sneaking in the office.
You missed
I have
that.
Maybe.
nothing.
Oh,
I have.
it's part of my blood now.